Hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week finally for some more One Hub Racing. It is season 22 here in the P2 tier and we are getting ready for the season opener. Today we arrive at China for the very first round of this season 22 in a track that we're not all too familiar with, as it was only added about a month ago, I think. So it's going to be quite a new track for a couple of the drivers, so it could present a little bit of a challenge for them, but it'll be interesting to see how they deal with it. I am your race commentator, More Games, and I'm looking forward to what should be an exciting Grand Prix. Obviously, we arrive at this Chinese circuit, two DRS zones, if I'm not mistaken, and if memory serves me correctly. It's been a while since we've been racing in Shanghai and at this circuit, so it'll be interesting to see how these Formula 1 22 cars actually race around this track. This is probably one of the first leagues I've actually commentated on that's had China in the calendar, so it's going to be very interesting. And while the drivers get get used to the track, I guess I will be too. We'll ride on board with the Ferrari of Speed Josh as he gets ready for his first lap of the session. It'll be interesting to see what kind of lap times these drivers can set around this circuit. As you can see, a couple of drivers going out on hards and inters, obviously just testing if their setups are working. But let's ride on board for the first lap of the session. Speed Josh is coming into the long right-hander of turn one, trying to keep up that minimum speed, but you can see he's carried in a little bit too much speed, or maybe not, because he sets himself up quite nicely for the exit and entry of turn two now, which brings us into what will be the hairpin, the first hairpin of the middle sector. And you want to carry a lot of speed through here, hit a nice and late apex. You can see going a little bit wide on exit there, maybe not as wide as he would have wanted to, but now a sweeping left followed by a sweeping right, just about flat out through there. We have to brake a little bit now for this double left-hander, hitting that apex quite nicely, using a little bit of the curb on the outside to maximize the exit. We now come into the final sector of the lap time, and once again we see quite a long spiraling right-hander as we saw back at turn one. You want to come in the entry quite wide and then open up the steering as you come onto the long DRS straight that the Chinese circuit has to offer. And it's a very long run, which brings us to the heavy braking zone of this next hairpin. And as you can see, Speed Josh is able to hit that apex quite nicely, not touching the curb on the exit of that particular hairpin. And then the final turn, you want to push this as much as you can, just about hitting that apex. There is Josh, and across the line, he's first man to set a lap time, and it is a 1:33 for the Ferrari driver. But you can see a couple more times coming in now. That's Colin R. Mason getting into the 1:32s for AlphaTauri. He'll be happy with that lap. Cam K getting into P3 with a 33.6. You can see Speed Kai, I think, just testing out his setup there to make sure that everything is working, as he is currently on the hard compound of tires, which won't be setting very competitive lap times in this qualifying session. You can see as the times come in, they are beginning to tumble. We're already seeing drivers get into those 1:32s, as we see Axlock get into a 1:32.8, but plenty of drivers yet to set lap times in this session. Gazaman is one of those drivers currently driving for Aston Martin this season, and he was last season's P3 tier championship, a season that I was thankfully able to commentate over. He drove a great season last season and is now obviously being promoted to this P tier, along with a few other names that I do recognize: ERT Jordan, Evil Dragon, Waitsy, All's Aero Specialist, all Div 3 drivers faced with this new challenge of the P2 tier. So let's see how Gazaman handles the pressure. He is beginning his first lap time of the session with 12 minutes and 40 seconds to go. He is now making his way into turn one. You can see carrying as much speed as he can, but also keeping a nice and tight line so that you can hit this apex of the turn one, and then Nice and early apex for turn 2, so you can get on the power and open the steering as it leads you onto the straight and the run into the first hairpin of many at this Chinese circuit. Gazaman taking that very nicely there. You can see using the perfect amount of the track there, as just about using the curb on the outside but not riding it to the point where it unsettles the car. We are now navigating our way through the middle sector, the double left, a very tricky section of this circuit. But you can see Gazaman taking that extremely nicely. Got a very good exit out of the first left, and that set him up perfectly for the second. Now into the final sector, nice and early apex here, and then you begin to hit this apex of this long right, so you can open up the steering as much as you can before getting yourself ready to enable the DRS as you come into the final 2 turns of the circuit. Turn 14, this is the second chicane at this Chinese circuit. You can see not able to carry a lot of speed through there, but then it is all about the exit because it sets you up for this final turn. You can see he's gone a little bit wide there, but does look like a decent lap time so far. And across the line, it is only P8 with a 1:33.7, and the slowest driver with a representative lap time so far. We still have 10 minutes and 53 seconds to go in this session. So there's plenty of time for all of these drivers to improve upon their lap times. But some drivers who have done some decent times early doors are Axlock and Colin R. Mason, both drivers getting into those 1:32s early on in the session. Now let's ride on board with the Mercedes driver of Evil Dragon. He is getting ready to start his first lap time of the session. Quite late on in the session, possibly could have made a mistake on his first lap, but is obviously trying to redeem himself now. And you can actually see that Williams there had a spin, got ghosted, but Evil Dragon was obviously distracted by that, so he's lost a little bit of lap time at turn 1 by making a correction to try and avoid the ghost car. But we are now coming into this next hairpin. As you can see, he's got to take the rest of his lap very nicely if he wants to get a decent time on the board. Into turn 7 now, trying to take this flat out, but you can see that's quite a big lift there from Evil Dragon, so possibly just down to not having a lot of confidence at this circuit. You can see he's on the controller, and this could be quite a difficult track for the controller, as there are a lot of long left and rights, which the controller tends to struggle with. And you can see he's gone very deep into that last left-hander, and this is quite a scruffy lap time from Evil Dragon. Would not be surprised if he abandoned it, but as of right now, with 9 minutes and a half to go in this session, there are still 6 drivers yet to set a lap time, one of which is Waitsy, who had that spin at turn 1 that we saw on board with Evil Dragon. But a lot of drivers currently on their outlaps, one of which is Lukey. He is in the Williams this season, getting ready to set what will be his first lap time of the session, quite late on as well. But let's focus on the provisional poleman of Axlock, currently on a 32.8, and quite a quick lap time compared to the rest of the grid. You can see most drivers in the 1:33s, and Colin R. Mason is the only man who is close to Axlock. Just a 10th separates them in this qualifying session so far. Axlock is now coming out of turn 14 and 15 to get ready to set his second lap time of the session. But as he's doing that, Waitsy recovers from his spin and sets the fastest lap time of the session, a 1:32.7, a great time from the Williams driver. He goes a 10th faster than Axlock, who will be looking to improve upon his time and try to get that provisional pole position back to what he had earlier on in this session. Now, as we come out of turn 2, that is, and making our way to the flat out turn 5, more of a kink than a turn. But the turn 6 now, this very tricky hairpin, which a lot of drivers actually seem to be struggling with slightly, especially with how much of the track they use on the exit. But Axlock, struggling to pronounce his name there, takes that quite nicely. We're getting familiar now with this double left-hander, wide on the entry, tight on the exit, to get yourself the best and most flowing run through that particular section of turns. It's now the final sector coming up into this long right-hander, and as you can see, it just feels like it goes on forever, but once you hit that apex on the inside line, you can really just open up the steering as much as you like, get your car to go as fast as possible, get the acceleration that you need to get onto this DRS straight, which brings you to the turn 14 chicane. Chicane, I should say, hairpin. Quite a tricky one. You can see taking a bit of curb there, which could possibly unsettle the ground effect Red Bull that he is currently driving. Cutting that final turn just a little bit with the inside front left, and across the line he does go faster, and by quite some margin. He improves by 0.3 of a second and goes to a 1:32.5. Currently 2/10 ahead of Colin R. Mason, who was also able to improve on his time. Waitsy into the 32s, along with Speed Josh and Delta Hunter, both finding their ways into the 1:32. So the top 5 all find themselves in those crucial 1:32 lap times. But you can see the 6 minutes to go in the session. A lot of drivers on different sort of schedules, I guess, because they're going at different lap times. So they've obviously come out of the pit lane at different times. Maybe Gazaman going out a little later to try and get that slightly better track evolution, which will gain you a 10th or 2 around this Chinese circuit, where the grip is so important, especially the downforce with the amount of high speed corners at this particular circuit. You can see coming into turn 1 had a little bit of correction at the early stage of the turn, but then into turn 2 taking that quite smoothly. A bit of a tighter line through there, but still getting a decent exit for himself. And as he comes out of the first sector, really cutting that turn 5 there, he is up on his time by almost a 1/10 of a second through the turn 6 hairpin. It's quite a good line through there. He takes quite nicely and gets a good exit, and flat out now through that turn 7 and into the double left-hander of turn 9 and 10. Let's see, can he take this well? And you can see a lot of drivers taking quite a similar line, but Gazaman taking it exceptionally well. He's able to take a tight line, but also have enough grip to get through the double left, carrying 5th gear, I think it was, through there. 2/10 up on his time now. He'll be looking to get a 33.5 if he keeps this up, but obviously he wants more improvement than that. He wants to get into those 1:32s, and it'll take quite a bit of improvement into these final 3 turns now. The hairpin of turn 14 needs to hit the apex here, and you can see actually riding quite a bit of the curb. That's not the best line through there, and he does not get a great exit because of it. The final turn though, turn 16 of the 16 turn circuit, and across the line he doesn't get a 1:32, but he gets quite close as he sets a 1:33.1. That puts him P6 in the session, and just 2/10 off of Delta Hunter, who is currently P5. So the P3 tier champion, showing that he deserves promotion. He's put his Aston Martin in quite a decent position so far. Speed Kai going for quite an interesting strategy here. First went out on the hard compound tires, now currently out on the medium compound tires. Still managed to be in P10 so far. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of lap time he can set on the soft tires once he does actually decide to go out on them. But I'm not exactly sure what his strategy is at this stage. Maybe just trying to conserve a set or 2 of soft tires for the actual race itself. But we'll have to see how that plays out, and if he can get that final lap time on the board, which will decide his qualifying position in this session. You can see there's an Alfa Romeo currently making his way back to the pit lane, and a lot of drivers making their way back to the pit lane now. This is the part of the session where the drivers are making their way back to the pits and getting ready to set that final lap time of the session, when the track evolution is at its best and the drivers will have the best opportunity to set the fastest lap times possible. You can see Colin R. Mason in the Alfa Romeo has gone out quite early at this qualifying session. You can see we can't really see how much time is left, because obviously his teammate is causing yellow flags in the 3rd sector after running out of fuel, but he now makes his way back into the pit lane. So hopefully we can see how much time is remaining in this session. But you can see a lot of people are beginning to come out, and that is because there are 2.5 minutes to go. So Colin R. Mason quite early to go out, I'd say. He's not going to have as much track evolution as people like Axlock and Waitsy, who are going out quite a bit later. So we'll have to see if this tactic works for him, and he's actually going to get caught in the traffic of every driver on their out lap and getting ready to set their final lap. So an interesting strategy, to say the least, from Colin R. Mason, but we'll have to see, will it work out for him. He crosses the line now to begin what will be one of his final lap times of the session into turn 1. You can see a lot of drivers on that mini-map are going out for their out laps, so hopefully Colin R. Mason doesn't get tangled in between them. Quite a tight line into turn 1, not trying to carry the speed, but rather get the shortest line possible to get himself into turn 2. This now brings us out of the first sector, and you can see that tight line has not worked out for him. He's a 10th down on his time, taking a bit of curve there at turn 6, something that we haven't seen many drivers do just yet. Jay Luke actually retires from the session. Williams almost getting on to Colin R. Mason's racing line, taking a lot of curve there at turn 8. Surprising that he was able to keep control of his car after that one. And we now make our way into the final sector. Turn 11 and 12 are next. You can see the Haas car possibly giving Colin R. Mason a little bit of dirty air here, but he tries to get off of the racing line, and that's exactly what he does. Colin now is going to use the slipstream of this Ferrari ahead, but not for long. You see, just about getting out of the slipstream at the right time there, and I don't think he's actually improving. We'll have to see, as he still has 3 more turns to go. Anything could happen in this final hairpin, and he does take that quite nicely, although maybe wasn't able to open the steering as much as he maybe would have liked to, because possibly opened it a bit too early, and you can see that's caused him to abandon his lap time. He makes his way back to the pit lane. He will not be setting another lap time in this session, so disappointing to see. Maybe just going out that little bit too early was not worth it, and obviously in the case of Colin, it did not work out for him. But Axlox, the current provisional pole man, and he has been for almost the entire qualifying session. He has 15 seconds to go, so he's timed his run absolutely perfectly. He is getting ready to set the final lap time of the session, and let's see how fast he can go into turn 1 now. You can see early apex, and then actually quite a tight line, just like Colin R. Mason took, but it didn't work out for him, as we saw on his last lap time. Axlock, another tight line through turn 2. You want to take plenty of tight lines at this Chinese circuit, as you want to give yourself the shortest run from the start finish to the finish line. As you can see, through turn 6, he is up on his time, but only by 5/100ths of a second, coming out of the first sector, completely flat out through turn 7, and it's the double left of turn 9, of turn 8, or 9 and 10, I should say. You can see he was a little bit compromised on the entry there by trying to carry too much speed through turn 8. He is still a 10th up on his time. Waitsy, though, is able to improve on his time, matches Colin R. Mason's time, and for some reason actually goes ahead of him. I'm not too sure why that is, but Waitsy is in P2 after that lap. Plenty of other drivers still on laps, such as Speed Josh, Delta Hunter, and Gazman. You can see Speed Josh finishes his lap time. He goes to a 1:32.4. Axlock has only got 2 more turns to go to try and beat that, as his teammate goes even faster at 1:32.400. Axlock needs to improve by over a 10th here if he wants to get pole position in this session. Can he do so? It looks like the answer is yes. He goes to pole position with a 32.3, and I don't think anyone will be contesting him, as everyone else is no longer on a lap time. Lukey crossing the start-finish line there to end the session, but it looks like it's going to be a Red Bull front row lockout. Axlock on pole position with his teammate Delta Hunter just 9/100ths behind. The top 4 separated by a 10th of a second, with the 2 Ferraris just behind the Red Bulls, and starting to replicate real life a little bit here. It looks like it could be a battle between the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, as they all line up 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the grid. Waitsy is able to qualify P5, 3 tenths off of P4 though. So quite a big gap between the top four and the rest of the field. Colin R. Mason, after not being able to set another lap time, he stays P6. Cam K goes P7 with a 32.7. The last of the drivers into the 32s is Futile Rydog, and then Gazaman and ERT Jordan round out the top 10 for this season opener here in Shanghai. So coming into this race, I think it's safe to say we can expect a hard medium strategy as we see at most circuits on this Formula 1 22 game. Although it could be slightly different. As you can see, we have a little bit of overcast here at China. So possibly rain could be coming later on in the session. If it does, that could cause complications for quite a few of the drivers, and it will force them to change up their strategies to make sure maybe they'll go to the hard compound tires to get to the rain, or maybe if the rain comes earlier on, they'll have to start on the mediums. That is, if the rain is even coming. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of tires everyone is going to start on now. I think we could see a variation between the hards and the mediums, both viable strategies to start on. Obviously, with the hard compound tires, you don't have to deal with that long hard compound tire warm-up phase after coming out of the pit lane. You can go straight to the mediums, which warm up nice and quickly so that you don't lose as much time to the drivers around you. We are now getting ready for the race start. The drivers applying the final tweaks to their setup and making sure that they have the right strategies for this Chinese Grand Prix. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers do. Obviously, this is the first season of One Hub Racing where every tier is going to have crossplay for every round. Obviously, Axlock, the man on pole position, is actually on PC, and so is his teammate Delta Hunter. So two of the PC drivers in P1 and 2. You can see a lot of PlayStation drivers, as obviously this was a PlayStation League before crossplay was enabled. But we also have Futile Rydog in P8 on Xbox. So a bit of variety here in the consoles and also PC as well. Although I have heard that the difference in how the game handles between different platforms is actually quite a big difference. So it would be interesting to see. You can see obviously the PC drivers doing quite well. P1 Peru though not doing as well as he maybe would have hoped. He's down in P13 for Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, his teammate Colin R. Mason currently P6 after not being able to set a final lap time in the qualifying session. We can take a look now at the tyre choices for a lot of the drivers, and you can see obviously in One Hub Racing we have a two-stop rule here that all drivers have to follow. So that is why a lot of drivers are starting on those soft compound tires. We could see soft medium, or maybe a soft medium strategy. It'll be interesting to see what each of the drivers decide to do with this two-stop strategy rule, as it has provided some good action, especially last season. The difference in strategies was a lot more. There was a lot more variety in the strategies than there is normally. Obviously, normally you only have a hard medium or a medium hard strategy, but then here in One Hub Racing you can use the softs, you can use the mediums, you can use the hards. It all depends on what you feel comfortable on, and obviously a lot of drivers feel comfortable on the softs, some on the mediums. But before this race gets underway, I'd like to mention one of One Hub Racing sponsors, that is Next Level Racing. They provide some great sim racing equipment such as play seats and cockpits, which you can use to really give yourself that immersion in this Formula 1 22 game. They also provide prizes for the drivers in this league. So if you want to get yourself a play seat or a cockpit, make sure to check out their website link in the description. But you can see the drivers are now getting ready for this race start. Delta Hunter disqualified from the formation lap, so he'll be starting a little bit further back than he maybe would have liked to. but most of the other drivers able to get their grid slots just right. You can see we are now ready for this race start as we have 5 red lights. They're gone and we're away. What kind of start is it for our pole man of Axlock? It doesn't look like a great one, although he is able to cover off Delta Hunter coming into turn 1 and maintain the lead off of that race start. You can see Waitsy is battling side by side with the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Yellow flags in the first sector. That is because Evil Dragon has had a collision. He is now down in P18 after having a spin. You can see Speed Josh maintaining P3. Waitsy moving up to P4, but he's now under pressure after getting wheel spin coming out of turn 2. So Speed Guy takes back P4, but he's under pressure from Cam K, who's also under pressure from Lukey. The two Williams going side by side. Lukey coming out on top after that engagement. He is down the inside and up into P6 coming out of turn 6. You can see the Mercedes of Cam K and Speed Kai in the Ferrari battling quite hard on this opening lap. ESW Culinar Mason has had a spin. He is now down to P18 in the middle sector. That's a shame to see after qualifying P6 on the grid. You can see that's a Haskar, a futile ride dog looking for a move on Wacy, not late enough on the brakes to make a move into turn 11 where there's not a lot of space to be left. You can see a lot of drivers having struggles early on. Aero Specialist moving ahead of Casper, although they are going side by side. Casper using a little bit more of his ERS. He's able to move his way up into P13, gaining 2 positions off of that race start. Meanwhile, up front, Waitsy and Futile Ride Dog battling it out for P8. As Ride Dog finally making that move after having a look into turn 11, gets it done coming out of turn 15. Fastest lap of the race for Axlock as he's able to maintain the lead off of lap 1. Cam K is looking to the inside of Speed Kai. They're side by side through turn 1. It's very tight now into turn 2. Speed Kai changes to the inside line, doesn't get a very flowing run compared to the Mercedes driver, and with the power of the soft compound tires he's able to fly past Speed Kai, but Speed Kai not going down without a fight. Cam K moves in the braking zone and that causes contact between himself and Speed Kai. Cam K is round and he now falls all the way down to P13 now, and he's just ahead of the Alpine of J-Luke. Meanwhile, Gazaman makes a move on ERT Jordan, 2 old rivals from last season in the P3 tier. Casper looking for me. You can see that's a Haskar there, Futile Ride Dog. He's fallen down quite a few positions, and that is because he has lost his front wing. He is going to have to come into the pit lane to get that repaired, and this is now allowing the Mercedes to look to the inside coming into turn 11. Cam K trying to make up positions and doing so successfully. Aero Specialist snap of oversteer off of the exit of turn 12, and that is going to cost him time to Evil Dragon, who's all over the back of him after just overtaking his teammate J-Luke using a bit of the ERS, and he's going to make that move coming into turn 14. He finds himself in P13, but Aero Specialist is trying to fight back. He goes down the inside into turn 14. Futile Ride Dog going off of the circuit there after his wing damage. It doesn't allow him to have the grip that he'd normally have going into that hairpin. Evil Dragon with the inside line for turn 16 finally gets that move done. He is up into P9 and has gained the most positions out of any driver on the grid. Started P18, is currently in a top 10 position. He is P9 in this race, but you can see a correction there coming out of turn 1. Not too sure what that was. Maybe gone the power a bit too early. Maybe even a tap from Aero Specialist behind. But nevertheless, he has fallen down to P11. And both of the Mercedes have not had a good well, I could say Evil Dragon has had a good start, although none of the Mercedes are in the top 10. Both of the McLarens in P11 and P12, last of anyone who has yet to make a stop. As you can see, P14 onwards all came into the pit lane. So they have made their first stops of the Grand Prix, which means they only have one more stop to go. Meanwhile, the drivers ahead of them all have 2 more stops. You can see the top 3 not battling too hard off of that opening lap, but all maintaining the DRS of the car ahead. You can see being enabled there by Speed Josh, but his teammate Speed Kai has fallen quite a bit behind. He is down in P4, and 3.6 seconds behind on the medium compound tires. Meanwhile, ERT Jordan and Gazaman battling it out for P5 in this Grand Prix. Jordan with the medium compound tires finds enough grip to get past the Aston Martin of Gazaman, and in the background P1 Peru is defending from Casper. He is P7 in this Grand Prix after starting P13. It's a good start from him, but he is being fought back by Casper, who looks to the outside coming into turn 1. P1 Peru has the tighter line, has the better grip of the soft compound tires, but does he have the racecraft to maintain this P7 position? Casper looks to the inside coming into turn 2, tries to open up the steering, but does not have a flowing line through there, and that is what has cost him P7 in this race on lap 4. But you can see this Chinese circuit, I haven't stopped talking since lap 1, and that is because it is just action, move after move, every single lap. So there's a lot going on in this race, and a lot of drivers squabbling for positions, and that has allowed the top 3 to absolutely run away. So the battle for the podium will mainly be between the 2 Red Bulls and Speed Josh. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, P1 Peru on the soft compound tires is trying to catch up to the DRS of P6 ahead of him, which is ERT Jordan, in a bit of an AlphaTauri sandwich right now. But you can see the soft tires had some really good grip off that race start, although the medium runners of Casper, ERT Jordan, Speed Kai were all able to maintain a top 7 position for themselves, and Speed Kai in the top 4, not really losing time to Gazman behind them. Meanwhile, there's battles going on for the podium positions. That is because Delta Hunter has decided to box on lap 4 of 28. Just goes to show how quickly the soft tires drop off in this Formula 1 22 game. He is now on to the medium compound of tires, and you can assume that he is going to be going for a soft medium strategy, but we'll have to see if that's the strategy he goes for. You can see cold medium tires, a bit of wheel spin there coming out of the pit lane, but after he boxed, that has now lost Speed Josh the DRS to Axe Lock ahead. So good, not very good for Speed Josh. Meanwhile, the 2 McLarens are battling away. Alls and Jamie Met coming into turn 6. You can see Alls conceding a position, although Jamie Met goes quite deep into turn 6. He does maintain P9, however, and is going to be looking to try and score some points in this Grand Prix. We can see everyone outside of the top 10 has now made one stop in this race. Everyone inside the top 10 yet to make a stop. So considering how early Delta Hunter actually came into the pit lane, we could possibly see some stops from the top 3 soon enough, or maybe not. Speed Kai's obviously he is on the medium compound tires, and Gazaman though is on the softs along with P1 Peru, Speed Josh and Axe Lock. ERT Jordan though is keeping Gazman honest by putting him under plenty of pressure, making sure that he keeps up a good pace. You can see the top 2 have now come into the pit lane along with Gazman, so all boxing very early on the soft compound of tires. They did not last long, and now it is time to make the switch to the medium compound of tires. You can see Axlock, where is he going to come out relative to Delta Hunter? Has the undercut worked out for the Red Bull driver, or will Axlock be maintaining his lead? It doesn't look like it. Coming into turn 1, Delta Hunter is looking to the outside. Axlock with the cold medium compound tires isn't able to fight back. He falls down to P2 now, and Delta Hunter finds himself in the net lead of this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Speed Josh struggling to get his tires up to temperature. He is outside of the DRS of Axe Lock ahead of him. Lukey and Gazaman battling it out for P10 in this Grand Prix. The Aston Martin and the Williams battling quite hard. You can see plenty of battles up and down the field, but the main one is going to be between Speed Josh, Axe Lock and Delta Hunter. You can see yellow flags in the first sector. That is because there was a mistake there from the McLaren driver of Alls. He falls down to P17 in this race after boxing for a fresh set of medium compound tires. You can see Casper still in the back of P1 Peru, but as this race begins to settle in, He is the only driver in the top 10 with the power of DRS, although Speed Josh is trying to get it from Axlock ahead of him, who has lost it to his teammate. So Delta Hunter, that undercut has worked out perfectly for him, and that is something that the drivers are going to take into consideration for their next pit stops. And P1 Peru on the soft compound tires, finally deciding to box for some fresh mediums, and Jamie Met follows him into the pit lane. This now gives Delta Hunter P4 in this race, and Speed Josh is going to be one to watch. He's been pushing quite hard to try and get the DRS of Axlock ahead of him, but it actually hasn't worked out. Axlock has decided to now pick up the pace and maybe get some DRS of his own from his teammate, and you can see the gap 1.2 seconds, so there's not much in between them, and he really needs that power of the DRS, as it can gain you about half a second per lap. You can see improving by 0.3 on his personal best so far in this session, and he is now just about under a 1 second gap. Or is he? Yes, he is. 0.9 is the gap, although it is fluctuating between 0.9 and a second. He needs to make sure that it is 0.9 at the DRS detection point, which is at the apex of turn 12. Meanwhile, Speed Josh struggling to get that 1 second gap, to convert that 1.3 second gap into a 1 second gap. But Axlock well and truly in the DRS now. He will be gaining quite the advantage from that rear wing opening up each and every lap. So we'll have to see, is he going to be putting pressure under his teammate? He does not have the power of DRS, obviously the race and the net race leader, so he is 7.7 seconds off of Casper, who has one more stop to make than Delta Hunter does. See a little bit of wheel spin there coming out of turn 16, so possibly struggling with tire grip already, even though these mediums are only 2 laps old. Evil Dragon making the move on P1 Peru coming into turn 14. A good move from the Mercedes driver, puts him into P12, and will be pushing on to try and catch up to the Alfa Romeo of Colin R. Mason, who's had a disappointing race so far. He's obviously a bit of a recovery drive ever since the lap where he fell down to P18. We are now on lap 8 of 28, and Gazman is on the back of Lukey, along with Axlock on the back of his teammate Delta Hunter, although I don't expect those two to be battling out too much in these early stages. The only lap that counts for overtakes is that final lap. Whatever position you are in on that final lap will determine your finish position, so that is why they're not battling it out too hard on lap 8. Two drivers who are battling it out quite hard though are Evil Dragon and P1 Peru. The Mercedes and the Alfa going out of laps now, although Evil Dragon has 2 lap older medium compound tires than P1 Peru does, and he makes a mistake coming out of turn 12 there, and that has caused him to go very wide, and he's now lost about 3.5 seconds because of that mistake, although it could go up to 4 now. So that's really compromised his race efforts, as it's going to be quite difficult to catch up to Peru ahead of him, who obviously has fresher tires than Evil Dragon does. So he's going to have to push nice and hard, not only with his tires but also his ERS. Meanwhile, Speed Josh finds into the DRS of the top 2, although they're currently P4 and P5 as the 2 AlphaTauris, and Speed Josh's teammate is yet to box in this race. Is then 8.4 seconds off of this battle, so you can see the top 3 really have pulled away from the rest of the grid, and they've been gaining on the net top 3 have been gaining on the actual top 3. The gap was 7.7 seconds only a few laps ago. It is now 4.3 seconds, so they've got a very good pace compared to the rest of the field. And Delta Hunter is actually, it's not much, but he is improving on his personal best by 1,000th of a second. That is a spin there from Casper, and That is going to lose him a good 10 seconds now because of that spin, as it also compromises his exit coming onto this DRS straight. He could even lose the position to Cam K, although Cam K is a bit far away to make that move coming into turn 14. But Casper has lost a lot of time because of that error, and maybe the medium's just not working out. And now that they're feeling the wear, he could possibly look into boxing for softs or mediums, and he's not going to do it this lap though. He stays out on those mediums and is going to try and push to get back to where he once was. Meanwhile, Speed Josh on the edge of the DRS here. You can see it's 1 second, now it's 9/10. It keeps on changing each and every tick, so hopefully you can get into the DRS for when it truly matters, and that is the exit of turn 11. He's up on his personal best time, so Speed Josh is really pushing hard here to keep up with the two Red Bulls, and that just goes to show how much pace these two Red Bulls have got. You can see Delta Under is actually on 70% ERS, so he hasn't even been pushing that hard, and he's really been keeping the two behind him, very honest. So that just goes to show he's been practicing this circuit quite a bit to hopefully get a good result. You can see he's only a 10th down on his best time, so setting very consistent lap times here, and the mediums really coming to life for the Red Bull driver. Meanwhile, the top two still out on the medium compound tires. These two drivers are going to show the rest of the take these medium compound tires for, and they've taken them for the first 9 laps, and it's about to become 10 as ERT Jordan is about to cross the line. Although Speed Kai comes into the pit lane, is ERT Jordan going to do the same? Yes, he is. He is boxing now for a fresh set of medium compound tires, and if they only last 10 laps, you can expect to see them again on lap 20. So they'll have to stretch the softs for quite a while there if they want to make their strategy work. You can see ERT Jordan and Speed Kai into the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see where the second Ferrari driver comes out. Obviously his teammate is battling for P3, and he was only a couple seconds off of that battle, but as he comes out of the pit lane, he has lost a lot of time to the undercut, and is now on fresher medium compound tires who will have more pace, but he's lost a lot of time to the drivers ahead, about 15 seconds to where he was earlier on. Meanwhile, there's quite a big battle going on in this midfield, and Casper has made another mistake on those old medium compound tires. He goes down to P12 after having a spin coming out of turn 2. He's not going to be happy with his performance so far, and he still has 2 stops to go in this race, so he's not setting himself up nicely for the rest of this race. Meanwhile, Speed Kai trying to get some heat into those medium compound tires before he can make moves on the driver's head. Colin Mason in P8, trying to get back to where he originally qualified. Meanwhile, Aero Specialist, Gazaman and Lukey all battling it out for a top 5 position, while Cam K continues on setting consistent lap times. He'll be looking to get a P4 for himself in this Chinese Grand Prix. Meanwhile, the top 3 all keeping within the DRS of each other and doing a good job to do so. Although actually this is Aero Specialist now making the move on Gazman coming into turn 14. You can see late on the brakes, Gazman has a look around the outside, but he's not going to be able to go for a move into there. Aero Specialist moves up into P6, and this battle for a top 5 position is starting to get quite spicy. The drivers starting to get a little bit aggressive here, especially Aero Specialist. He's made quite a few moves in recent laps, and doing a good job for himself so far. Let's see now if he can make another and finally get himself into the top 5. He's only 3/10 behind Lukey, and keeping him very, very honest, as you can see, almost pushing him through turn 1 and 2. So it just goes to show how much pace he's got. He's obviously got 3 lap fresher mediums than Lukey, so that is giving him quite the pace advantage, and exactly the advantage that he needs on lap 12 of 28. So as you can see, we're coming through the middle sector, and I think we could definitely expect a move from Aero Specialist coming onto the next DRS straight. You can see how close he is, getting a better exit out of turn 10 and staying very, very close and setting up this move now. He's going to get ready as we come onto the final DRS straight of this lap 12. A little bit of oversteer and a bit of a correction there from Lukey coming through turn 12, and this is now allowing Aero Specialist to use the slipstream, use the ERS, and now he's about to enable the DRS, which is going to allow him to get past the Williams of Lukey. He moved himself up into the top 5, and he's now going to be putting all of his race efforts into trying to catch up to Cam K ahead, but you can see a mistake through turn 14. He goes wide. This is allowing Lukey to put some pressure under him, but that does not work out for Lukey, although maybe it does. A compromise line for Aero Specialist means that Lukey is going to try and fight coming into turn 1, using the slipstream to his advantage, but he cannot make a move down the inside there. Meanwhile, Gazaman can. He looks to the inside coming into turn 1, possibly get this move done now on Lukey and move himself up into the top 6. They're still side by side through turn 2, but Lukey able to defend that P6 position, and he is on 3-lap older medium compound tires there, but you can see Gazaman has gone very hot into that turn 6. Thankfully doesn't hit into the back of Lukey, as that could have caused quite the incident there between the Aston Martin and the Williams, and he's now going to be under pressure from Speed Kai behind, who was battling for P4 earlier on in this Grand Prix. Gazman is going to have to make sure that he doesn't make any more mistakes like that, otherwise it could cost him P7 in this race. That battle there between Lukey and Gazman has almost lost some DRS to Aero Specialist ahead, but making sure he's within 8/10 is going to give him the DRS for this next straight. But that is a spin there from Aero Specialist coming out of turn 12. All that hard work is done for nothing as he falls down. That is quite a mistake there from the Alpine driver. Speed Kai looks to the inside coming into turn 14, and he gets the move done on Gazman. Meanwhile, there's a move for the lead. Axe Lock makes the move on Delta Hunter coming into turn 1, and he takes the lead of this Grand Prix, finally deciding to go on the offensive after being quite conservative for the past couple of laps. Speed Kai is able to take advantage of the chaos. He moves up into P5, and he's going to be pushing nice and hard to try and get back into that P4 position he was once in earlier on in this race. But Lukey will be trying to keep up with the DRS and putting a little bit of pressure on the Ferrari driver, but a shame to see from Aero Specialist. He was doing very nicely for himself in this race, but it all comes to nothing as he falls down to P11 and outside of the points. Colin Mason, P1 Peru and ERT Jordan are all in this DRS range. This battle goes all the way from P5 to P10, although maybe not for long. Lukey struggling to keep up with Speed Kai ahead of him. He has got 8-lap older medium compound tires, and that could be why the grip difference is so large. He's currently 1 second off of his best lap time, so that goes to show the mediums are starting to fall off a little bit here. So maybe he could consider boxing. Obviously, we saw Speed Kai and ERT Jordan come into the pit lane after using their mediums for 10 laps, but we're now seeing a move for P8 in this Grand Prix. Colin Mason is looking to the inside coming into turn 14. He's nice and late on the brakes, but Gazaman possibly later. He looks to the outside, gets absolutely squeezed off of the racing line, and Colin Mason barging him off of the track there. He moves up into P7, but I think that might be one for the stewards there. Questions will be asked if there was enough space left, but Gazaman, even with that incident, is going to continue on and try to get back to his original position of P7. But Speed Kai showing his pace and showing his advantage of fresher mediums. He has caught Cam K by quite a few tenths in this last lap. I think he's caught by a second on that last lap, and he's continuing to catch more and more time. He's got 8-lap fresher medium compound tires, and that is going to be quite the difference between the two drivers. We are currently on lap 15 of 28, so we are past the halfway point in this Grand Prix. So the drivers will be thinking about when are they going to make those final stops, and how are they going to make these crucial moves that will decide their finish position. You can see that's a big mistake there from Colin Mason, or P1 Peru I should say even, he's having a bit of lag there, and that has cost him P8, and he's actually disconnected from the session. So a real shame to see there from the Alfa Romeo driver. ERT Jordan, though, is looking to make a double move coming into turn 14. Gazman is known to be late on the brakes coming into this turn, and he's able to hold it around the outside this time. ERT Jordan almost just made a double move there, but only up into P9 for now. But Gazman, you can see he's very, very late on the brakes coming into turn 14 whenever he's under pressure. And we saw that with his battle with Colin Mason, and now with ERT Jordan. So you can see maintaining P5 for now, as a lot of drivers decide to box. Cam K decides to box. Lukey and Colin Mason and P1 Peru all coming into the pit lane. And let's see where they come out. You can see Cam K is just about come out ahead of Jamie Met. That is absolutely crucial for his race efforts, as he does not want to get caught up in traffic when Speed Kai is putting him under pressure. Cam K makes his final stop of the race. He will be taking these mediums to lap 28 of 28. Meanwhile, Speed Kai has still got one more stop to make. You can assume after using 2 sets of medium compound tires, he will be trying to box for softs at around lap 24 or 23. So he will have a massive advantage once he comes out of the pit lane, but once again he's going to suffer from the undercut, and he's going to use a lot of track position to drivers such as Jamie Met, Lukey, Colin Mason and Alls, who are all coming out of the pit lane on the medium compound tires. Meanwhile, ERT Jordan looks to the inside coming into turn 14. Gazman super late on the brakes, and he is able to maintain that position once again. He's very committed on the brakes coming into turn 14, and he's shown it again. He holds P6, or P5 I should say, but it turns into P6 as he's now deciding this is the time to make his final stop in the race to maximize the use of his medium compound tires. He's going to box for the final time this race. Meanwhile, Axlock and Speed Josh both coming out of the pit lane. These two battling for the race win. Delta Hunter, because Axlock boxed, he didn't want to go for a double stack, so he's decided to stay out for one more lap. And we've seen that the undercut is quite powerful at this Shanghai International Circuit. So I think he's going to lose a little bit of time and could possibly lose track position to Speed Josh if he is fast enough on his outlap. Although these guys are going to be on the cold tires and need to heat them up as quickly as possible to make sure that they're not losing a massive amount of time. You can see Waitsy is actually keeping up with the DRS of Cam K ahead of him, although that might not last for long, as obviously he's on 14 lap old hard compound tires after boxing on lap 1, I think it was, or lap 3. He boxed for the hard compound tires, which he's obviously trying to extend so that he can go to the mediums or the softs at the end of this race. But Delta Hunter now coming into the pit lane as predicted. Where is he going to come out though relative to Axlock and Speed Josh? There hasn't been much action up at the front. It's all been going off in the midfield, but that is because it is mind games going on for this race win, and who has got the best strategy out of all these drivers. Speed Kai is now in the lead of this race and is he's been in this position for most of the race now, where he's just been free to push in clean air. But you can see Axlock now coming through turn 1. Delta Hunter has actually maintained the lead, but he has got cold tires, so Axlock will possibly be able to make the move coming out of turn 2. You can see visibly that he is not pushing as hard as he would like to, as he has to make sure that he doesn't hit his teammate ahead of him. Coming into turn 6, he does look to the inside. The warmer medium compounded tires is able to get that move done. He moves up into P3, and Speed Josh, will he be able to take advantage while Delta Hunter's tires are still cold? I don't think he will. He has a little look to the outside, or possibly trying to go for a switchback move, but nothing working through this middle sector. There just aren't any overtaking opportunities, so Speed Josh forced to stay in P5 for now. But Delta Hunter really struggling to get temperature into those medium compound tires. 9/10 between himself and his teammate, although thankfully he will have the power of DRS for this main back straight here, and the main overtaking opportunity into turn 6. As you can see, crossing the DRS line, he has the power of the DRS, which keeps Speed Josh at bay. But Axlock is actually coming up on the back of ERT Jordan, who is yet to make his second stop in this Grand Prix. So he is going to gain a little bit of DRS on this pit straight. That will be able to gain him a couple of tenths, but he is going to get caught in this traffic, which could disrupt his race slightly and compromise him. So he's going to have to try and get past as quickly as possible, and we'll have to see if he can do just that. You can see very close to the back of the AlphaTauri, and coming out of turn 2, is he going to use his ERS? Is he going to try and go for a move? No, he is not. So he's actually deciding to stay behind the AlphaTauri for just a few corners more, and now that he's done that, he's actually going to have to stay behind him for the entirety of the middle sector. So Axlock is going to lose quite a lot of time here due to the dirty air, and obviously ERT Jordan not having as much pace as the top 3. So this is allowing Delta Hunter and Speed Josh to get ever closer, really bunching up the podium runners. So we'll have to see how that plays out, and if anyone is going to possibly go for a move into turn 14. You can see we're now coming through turn 12, and Delta Hunter is on the back of Axlock on the back of ERT Jordan, and I think we could see a move or two coming into this next turn. Now you can see Delta Hunter is looking for a move not only on ERT Jordan but also his team Axlock, and he's going around the outside to make the move for the lead, and he gets that job done. Delta Hunter moves up into P1, taking advantage of the other cars in this race. I don't want to say backmarkers because obviously ERT Jordan is still battling for points in this race, but the top 3 are just in a bit of a league of their own right now. So Axlock really didn't handle that too well, and it has allowed Delta Hunter to get up into P2 and the net race lead in this Grand Prix. It's going to start to get quite close as we enter the final 8 laps of this race. On lap 20 of 20. To get quite intense between the top 3, and ERT Jordan is actually gaining quite a decent advantage here. He's able to stay within the DRS of this net top 3, and it is gaining him time to the people that he was battling previously. I think he was in the battle with the likes of Colin R. Mason, Gazaman, Aero Specialist, obviously battling for those few points positions, which will be crucial for them in the championship standings. But ERT Jordan coming through turn 12 and now 13. You see a little bit of wheel spin there, not making a correction, and thankfully keeping control of his AlphaTauri, although he will not have DRS for this back straight. Meanwhile, one man who does have DRS is Axlock, who gets very, very close to the back of his teammate, and who knows, he could be looking to retake the lead soon enough. Is going to start to come down to the wire now. 7 more laps of racing to go as we enter lap 21 of 28. Speedkai still that he's going to be trying to stretch those to about lap 24 so that he can box for the soft compound tires and hopefully be competing with the likes of Cam-K, as if he boxes now, I think he's going to come out maybe possibly behind Connor Mason and Lukey, who are battling it out for P8 and battling it out quite close between each other. You can see the gap between them only 2 tenths, as make that 1 tenth, as you can see how close of Colin R. Mason, the man who qualified P6 all the way down to P18. He's drove a great recovery race so far, and he finds himself in P7 at this lap 21 of 28. If he continues on like this, he could be scoring decent points. A snap of oversteer. They're coming out of turn 6. He won't be wanting to have any more moments like that now that he's got pressure from the Williams behind. But meanwhile, 2 more people still to make stops. If we take a look at the pit stops here, Futile, Rydog, ERT Jordan and Speedkai all yet to make stops in this Grand Prix. So we'll have to see where they all filter out. It'll be interesting to see where Speed trying to battle it out or try to catch up to Cam K once he finally decides to box. And when he does decide to box, it's going to be quite crucial. Although it looks like the time to box is now. He's going to come in for the soft compound tyres, which he's going to have to take for 7 laps, 7 full laps of racing. Can the soft tyres make it? Because we saw last the drivers were boxing after just 4 laps of racing on the soft compound tyres. So we'll have to see if this approach for Speed Kai works out. Obviously, we saw in the qualifying session he was hesitant to use the soft compound tyres. He obviously wanted to save the race stride and compound tyres out and start using them. Luki and Colin Armason, that is the absolute worst position to come out, as he would have loved to come out ahead of them, but he now has to overtake both of them and catch 7 seconds to... Okay, but if anyone could do it, it's Speed Guy. He's been very consistent for most of this race, as have the top 3. Speed Josh may be struggling a little bit to keep up with the top 2, but he's been there for this entire race and looking to capitalise soon enough. Lap 22 of 28. It's going to start to get closer and closer and closer. And it's just about when are they going to make that move. Are they going to wait till the final few laps, or are they going to value track position earlier on before those final few laps? Maybe if they can get up into... can get up into P1, maybe he'll be able to defend that position with the amount of ERSs he has. Although as of right now, Delta Hunter out of the top 3 has the most DRS, 50% for Delta Hunter, with Axlock and Speed Josh both under 40% ERS. So Delta Hunter in an advantageous position. He has more ERS and fresher tyres than the other drivers in the top 3. So I think he's got a good chance of winning this race, but Axlock is going to dictate track position here, as he has the power of the DRS. He's in P2 and he decides when he wants to make that move, and he should be able to make him quite easily, especially on that back straight with the slipstream and the DRS being so powerful into there, and turn 14 being a perfect overtaking opportunity into a hairpin. It's going to be quite difficult for Delta Hunter to defend that position when he has so many factors going against him. But Speed Kai moved himself up into P5 in this Grand Prix. 6.7 seconds is the gap between himself and Cam K. I'd recommend keeping an eye on that gap, as it's going to come tumbling down over the next 5 laps of racing. And you can see even Colin Armason isn't able to keep up with the DRS. He falls outside of the DRS. Meanwhile, Casper, currently down in P16, is on the fast lap of the race with a 1 minute 35.0, 7 tenths faster than Delta Hunter, who is currently in P1, but obviously making quite a late stop for those soft compound tyres, means that he won't be getting into the top 10 anytime soon. So yeah, a lot of drivers struggle in this race. So I think there were quite a few mistakes, and obviously a couple of lap 1 incidents means that some drivers haven't had the race that they would have wanted. If you take a look at the position changes here, Cam K has had quite a decent race. He's got up 3 positions after starting P7 to find himself in P4, but in a matter of just 2 sectors, Speed Kai has gained about 1.3 seconds and sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, going 1.3 seconds faster than Delta Hunter's fastest time. So really pushing quite hard now. Luki has had a good race so far. After starting P14, he is P7, and Aero Specialist started P17, second last, and on the back row of the grid, he's currently P9 and battling for points in this race. So that just goes to show how little the qualifying actually matters in the grand scheme of things. And Aero Specialist and Luki are both proving that. But the battle for the top 3 continues. Speed Josh is starting to gain a little bit of pace now. You can see he's quite close to the back of Axlock ahead of him, and could possibly be thinking of a move. Maybe he wants to get up into that P2 position, probably the best position to be, because you have the power of the DRS, which defends from the driver behind, but also the driver ahead of you doesn't have the DRS, so you get to decide if you want to overtake him whenever you like. So I think Axlock is in a good position. But the only thing that is going against Axlock right now is the amount of ERS that he has. Obviously, Delta Hunter has well over double his ERS now. So Axlock isn't going to have as much ERS, but hopefully that ERS will be enough for him once the time comes and he decides to make a move for the lead of the Grand Prix. As you can see, we are now arriving on lap 25 of 28. There's not long to go in this season 22 opener for the P2 tier. It's been quite an exciting race so far, although it has seemed to calm down a little bit as the drivers just settling into this race and getting ready, saving up their ERS, saving their tires, and getting ready to make those final moves of the Grand Prix. Speed Kai has dropped that gap from 6.7 seconds to now 3.2 in just 2 laps time. So it goes to show that's 1.5 seconds per lap. If he keeps this pace up, not only will he be able to overtake Cam K, but he'll be able to break the DRS too, although do the soft compound tires have it in them? Obviously we know they wear quite quickly, and are they going to wear so quickly to the point that they won't be fast enough to actually overtake Cam K? Speed Guy will be hoping that's not the case, as he'd like a P4 in this race after obviously qualifying P4. You can see the gap between Cam K and the top 3, 10.2 seconds. The top 3 absolutely flying in this race. They've been pushing ultra hard, and their pace is showing. But you can see Delta Hunter catching up to the lap car of Evo Dragon, who's obviously had quite an unfortunate race. He is moving out of the way for the top 3 to continue their battle, and you can see kind of moving off of the racing line. He knows that he does not have a chance of points in this race. Obviously 3 laps to go since we're on lap 26, so yeah, to gain about 40 seconds there to the top 10 is a little unlikely for the Mercedes driver, but good job to him that he actually continues on and is going to finish out this race and the first of the season. It will be a bit of a disappointing result, but we'll know that he has actually finished it and got to the end of it. Obviously J-Luke wasn't too happy with how his race went. He came into the pit lane and retired from the session, but he has been the only retirement in this session. So good to see from the drivers that no one has spun out or had a collision and DNF'd. So some good racing going on here between the drivers. But it's lap 26 of 28, so we're only going to come onto this back straight, well, 2 more times after this in this race. So 2 more realistic overtaking opportunities after this one. When are these drivers going to decide to overtake each other? Speed Josh isn't too keen on pushing just yet, which is actually quite interesting, because you'd think he'd need to make the moves earlier on, because if he starts pushing next lap, that's probably the same lap Axlock is going to be pushing, and it's going to really hinder Speed Josh's race. Maybe he's just looking to take advantage of the 2 Red Bulls once they obviously start battling for the lead. But yeah, it's going to be a tight one between those 2. Speed Kai is now P5 and 1.8 seconds off the back of Cam K, but is there enough time left in this race? He's had to use all the ERS to get into the position that he is in, and 5-lap old soft compound tires. The softs are going to start to feel the wear now. A little bit of graining on the outside of that front right, but he is still gaining that crucial bit of time to Cam K ahead. He needs to get in that DRS, and he needs to make a move in these next 2 laps. Only 2 laps of racing to go. There's not long left. These drivers need to make sure that they get these moves in time, as and that they don't start pushing too late, such as people like Delta Hunter. He's got 80% ERS. He's got to start using it now on this next back straight. Otherwise, he might be looking at a P2 or possibly even P3 in this race. Speed Josh only 5/100th off of his personal best time so far in this session, so he's really starting to push. A low fuel load. He does have worn tires, but that low fuel load is gaining him the time that he needs. You can see Axlock is deciding to use his ERS, but Delta Hunter just has such a massive ERS advantage that he is able to maintain the lead coming into turn 14. Gazaman has DNF from the session. He is spun coming out of turn 10, and we can get a view of it on board with Waitsy. You can see on the left hand side there, that is Gazaman's car. He's obviously gotten wheel spin or possibly a collision coming out of turn 10, and he is now out of this session after battling for P8, I think it was, with Aero Specialist. So a shame to see that the Aston Martin race comes to a close, but he's going to have to try and not think about it and bounce back in the next round. But continuing on with the battle for the lead, the two Red Bulls continue to battle away with each other. Delta Hunter is still out in front. Now there's 50% ERS compared to Axelox's 17. So Delta Hunter could be in the perfect position to win this Grand Prix in the season opener of Season 2 of the One Hub Racing P2 tier. But Axelox is going to try and get closer and closer and closer. Speed Kai is also on the back of Cam K. He's going to need the DRS for the next back straight if he wants to make the move on the Ferrari driver. You can see the Alfa Romeo of P1 Peru, I think, who's disconnected from the session. Getting a little bit in the way there of the two Red Bulls, but able to navigate through it. Can Axelox now make the move for the lead? It's turn 12, it's turn 13, and the final DRS straight of this race. Can Delta Hunter maintain this P1? He's going to use absolutely everything he's got left, and I think it's just about enough. Coming into turn 14, Delta Hunter still has the lead, and he's only got 2 more turns to go before he crosses the line to finish P1. Meanwhile, Speed Kai has absolutely no DRS left, and meanwhile Axelox, as soon as I flick off of him, he's made a mistake coming out of turn 15. It's wheel spin, and he's lost the position to Speed Josh, but Delta Hunter comes across the line to win this Chinese Grand Prix. He is the very first winner here in Season 22 in the P2 tier. Speed Josh, after a late mistake from Axelox, gains P2, and that is a great result for the Ferrari driver. Axelox falling down to P3, probably a worst case scenario for him in that situation. Cam K is able to fend off Speed Kai. He gets P4 in his first race this season. Speed Kai finishing P5 after getting onto those soft compound tires. Colin R. Mason started P6, was able to fell down to P18 and was able to recover to P6. It's a good job from the Alfa Romeo driver, who just about gets ahead of Lukey, who finished P7. ERT Jordan was able to make the move on Aero Specialist. He moves up into P8. Aero Specialist taking home P9, and Waitsy is the last of the top 10. He finishes P10 in this Grand Prix, and you can see Futile Ride Dog on the hard compound tires really stretched those tires, but I think the one problem is he did only make 1 stop. So obviously, he, as being an Xbox driver, is a bit new to the league and doesn't know about the 2-stop rule. So sadly, he will be disqualified from the session, but he won't be too worried as he has not scored any points. But it'll be good to know for him for the next race to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Lukey, getting driver of the day after starting P14, secures P7. That's 7 positions gained. He'll be very happy with that result. But here is the man, the race winner today. It is Delta Hunter who wins that Grand Prix after some good ERS management. He had a lot more on that final lap, and that is what gifted him the victory today. Speed Josh on his right and his teammate Axelox on his left. So a great race there between the top 3. Speed Josh gaining the position coming into the final turn and gets P2 in this race. That's a result he can be very happy with in his opening round. And it just goes to show this could be the battle for the championship in this P2 tier, as the top 3 seem to be out of everyone's league and way fast. You can see the gap between P1 and P4, 12.5 seconds. So yeah, quite the gap there between the drivers. But maybe if the likes of Cam K and Speed Kai are able to get into the DRS of the top 3 early on, they could have been battling for this race win. But nevertheless, a great result for a lot of the drivers here today. And a lot of drivers are going to be happy. Some drivers not so much. You can see J. Luke, obviously the only DNF this session. Gazaman was 2 laps down after DNFing on lap 26. Evil Dragon was a lap down along with P1 Peru, disconnected early on. Jamie Met, Casper Alls, and Futile Ride Dog, who is actually going to get disqualified from the session, all not having great races. Obviously, Waitsy started P5, finished in P10, so losing 5 positions off of his race start. So, good result for some, not so great for others. But I do hope you all enjoyed that Chinese Grand Prix. It was filled with action from start to finish. But just before we end off this stream, I'd like to mention a few more of One Hub Racing sponsors, one of which is Pure Sim Gear. They make racing gloves for all of you sim racers out there who want a bit more of an immersive experience. They also sponsor a league by giving the driver with the most fastest laps and pole positions a free set of their racing gloves. So very kind of them to do that. But if you don't think you're fast enough to get some of the pole positions and fastest laps that these guys can do, make sure to check out their link in the description to get yourself some racing gloves today. Another one of One Hub Racing sponsors is Gamer Goo. They make a great product. They actually make a cream that you can rub on your hands before you start a long gaming session to stop your hands from sweating and getting grease all over your controller or your racing wheel. Perfect if you're going for a long gaming session like a race like this, a 1.5 hour race. It does quite the job on your hands, especially making them sweat quite a bit if you have to try as hard as Axe Lock to maintain that P2 and go for the race win. So if you'd like to get yourself some, make sure to check out their link in the description. And one more of One Hub Racing sponsors is Aztec Sim Sports. They actually make some great sim racing gear as well, such as pedals and wheelbases. And they also sponsor the league by giving away prizes, as a lot of the sponsors do. So drivers who race in this league, if they do well enough, they get rewarded quite handsomely. They make pedals, wheelbases, and wheels. So if you're in the market for that sort of thing, I know a wheel upgrade can be quite daunting as to which is the best to buy. Well, I can tell you Aztec definitely have some decent stuff on their hands, so definitely go check out if their product is right for you. Their link is going to be in the description. But One Hub Racing also has a few partners, one of which is Vespertine, who obviously does this every season. They make merch for the league. So if you race in the league or watch the league and you enjoy it that much, you can buy bottles, you can buy hats, you can even buy t-shirts and hoodies if you want for with One Hub Racing, obviously their logo and their name on it, and you can represent them out in the real world if you really want to. So you can go check out their website if you want to get yourself some One Hub Racing merch, but also ERT, another sponsor of this league. You can see it in all of the titles. Obviously, they're mentioned in every title. They are the elite racing team. They're an esports team on this Formula 1 22 game. You can obviously see it. ERT Jordan is with them. And my co-commentator last season, ERT Toma, was with them. They're an esports team. You can go check out their socials on Twitter. That should be in the link in the description. And the final one of One Hub's racing sponsors is, of course, we can't forget to mention it, SimGrid. They pretty much power One Hub Racing, and that's how you can sign up, find standings, race results. All of that is on their website, along with much more. You can sign up for many more Formula 1 22 leagues and also a set of Corsa Competizione leagues if you like. That is all on their website, which should have a link in the description. But now with the sponsors and the partners out of the way, that is the end of this Chinese Grand Prix, and quite an eventful one. A lot of action in that race, and I hope that we can expect more of that next week. And, well, if you'd like to join me for that next race, I think it's Bahrain next week for round 2 of this season 22. Make sure to tune in next week at 7 p.m. UK time. But I hope you all enjoyed this stream, and I hope to see you next